And to start off the day, our headline today is to follow up on our big headline that was yesterday, and that is Laurentian Faculty Union President says auditor's report is a confirmation of everything we said. So we covered yesterday, not in depth, but we covered kind of a preliminary overview of the preliminary report. So it's a 13-page report released by the Auditor General. Her name is Lysyk, I think we decided.
Yeah, Lysyk.
It's pronounced Lysyk. And the union president today, I went ahead and read that report yesterday, highlighted all the important parts, planned on doing a full segment on the show today, and I forgot it back at home.
You're too honest, Zach.
13 pages is just too much for me to skim through and do a report on without highlighting the important things. So stay tuned for that.
So Monday, Zach is going to do a comprehensive kind of overview on the whole Laurentian insolvency issue.
Everything you need to know up to this point.
He's read the Auditor General's report. He's highlighted all of the main points. And he just wants to keep us kind of waiting for it. So I don't think he really forgot. I think you just want people,
We're just keep
coming back to hear what you got to say about
I'm not that clever. But, I mean, the way we've designed this show is we just try and make it the best show every time.
Yeah.
We've never been like, tune in tomorrow to find out the name of the, like, we're
not
just,
going to sensationalize things that for no reason just to get viewers. We just want to deliver what's going on, keep everyone in the know, and have a really, positive experience while we're doing it, and hopefully be relatable and just work together for a community conversation. That's what this is, community conversation. Speaking of that, join us on Facebook Live, and you can be part of the conversation by commenting on the video in the comments section, and we'll hopefully, I have it up here in front of me. At first we didn't, but anyways, it's up there now, and as you comment, we can address those comments.
I mean, Laurentian is it's in a tough spot. She mentioned this in the report. Lysyk, the Auditor General, mentioned this in the report, that this is going to have consequences for years to come. A lot of these consequences could have been avoided if the university were to take a different route, a different path. That different path would have been to try and reconcile through the ministry. Yeah. So, again, I wish I had the report in front of me.
Well, again,
it's going to make me sound like I'm not intelligent and prepared for it.
No. We're just, because we talked about this before going on air, and I think the conversation we had, if that was recorded, that would have been perfect for this segment, because you said basically other universities were in the same position as Laurentian University was in financially. We knew we were in this position in 2009 when the current president came on board, replacing the former president, who's now the president of the hospital, and said, okay, we're in financial dire straits. We could either go the route of all the other universities when they're in financial hardships, went to the ministry.
Yeah, I was trying to find the specific name of the ministry, but we're just going to call it the ministry
that they go to.
They have oversight over the universities.
There you go.
Yeah.
The Ministry of Universities.
Exactly.
Anyways, we're just being facetious. But anyway, so they chose not to go down that route, which would have then got them out of the quagmire, the financial quagmire.
There is a precedent for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess they didn't really want to go down that road. And apparently the union, part of this kind of going through bankruptcy, was that they could get rid of a lot of the union members. Sure. And this is always a little bit of
There's no way the province would have allowed that.
No.
There's no way the ministry would have allowed the university to cull 40% of their faculty.
Correct.
Yeah, that's one of the thoughts of, maybe the motivation behind the CCAA filing. But
that's what, in Sudbury.com this morning, if you go on their website, the president of Laurentian University's Faculty Association.
They believe that.
They believe that the insolvency that was released, the report that was released from the Auditor General is, quote, in a complete violation of pretty much everything we've said during the last 14 months. Validation violation. It's a complete validation of pretty much everything we've said for the last 14 months.
For sure. And I think it's important to know, too, something that was mentioned in the filing that I was curious about. Laurentian gets 40% of its funding from the province, like from the government.
Yeah.
40%.
So you'd think there'd be some accountability there, right?
Well,
like
the oversight is assumed at that point.
Yeah.
If you're giving that much money, we're talking the order of hundreds of millions.
Yeah, so you would think they would be expecting reports on a consistent basis and keeping their finger
on the pulse. How's the financial situation? Right. How much debt are you taking on?
Yes.
Because other provinces, another thing that's gone over in the report are some positive recommendations, some things that should come of this and prevent this from happening to other schools. And one of the things is Ontario actually has no imposed limits for the maximum amount of debt a university can take on.
Wow.
So that's a problem.
It is.
You know, if you're an opportunistic president or board of a university.
And you can get credit.
And you can get the credit, which they could. They just kept, swiping the credit card, metaphorically speaking.
Until they couldn't anymore.
Actually, it seems like they had a line of credit for, we're talking millions of dollars, that would be used to kind of pay incidentals and salaries and things, and they actually let that line of credit lapse and didn't renew it. Oh. And that could be one of the reasons that the problem happened. I forget if it was Royal Bank of Canada or Scotiabank that was the main creditor that was writing debts for Laurentian. But anyways, they revoked the line of credit. And Laurentian never went to renew it. So that was one of the things in the report. And it kind of gave them this moment of like, oh, where are we going to pay these?
Yeah.
We need to file for CCAA. Like, we're not going to be able to pay our bills. And that's what bankruptcy is.
But so they could have prolonged it a little longer is what you're saying. They could have renewed that line of credit?
Well, what they should have done is as soon as they were in financial straits, before the line of credit went out in 2020, they should have contacted the ministry. And been transparent. But they did just the opposite. They tried to obscure as much as possible. And that's what the report found. So
I think a lot of people were blaming the government, too, that they didn't do anything. You know what I mean? They're like,
I said that at the end of yesterday's show.
Yeah, why didn't they step in?
Some people are going to recommend the government take over more.
Yeah.
And there's a pretty good case for that if you look at the report, because other provinces have limits on the amount of debt that a university can take. They have more oversight. They have more transparency. And I don't see transparency necessarily as a bad thing, especially when it comes to large, very consequential organizations like Laurentian. And it's in the report as well. Like, they understand a northern university is not going to be financially, able to sustain itself. They're going to always need to infuse it with money.
That's right.
They understand that.
Yeah.
But if you try and hide the problems you're having, they can't help.
That's right, yeah.
So it just, to me, the word of the day is incompetence. Like, I don't want to be more offensive than that.
But this isn't you saying incompetence. I think when you said you read the report, the overall, word.
Like, the people managing the finances were incompetent.
Correct.
The people telling the people financing the management or managing the finances were incompetent. The board that oversees the people that tell the financial people what to do, they were incompetent. The board didn't have enough information to make good decisions. So the people providing information to the board were incompetent.
Correct.
The board was incompetent, not interpreting the data given to them and not knowing we don't have enough information for this to be a good decision. And that caused them to overspend drastically on capital projects.
So basically, the summary of the report or the one thing that comes through in the report is that all of the parties involved in the decision-making of what led to the bankruptcy, each one individually was incompetent.
It's a chain of command, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's like in an army, Like, you would hope that the person at the top is the best soldier, the best manager, the best general.
The leader.
Not just, there because of
Yes.
who knows what reason, and he just happens to be in charge and doesn't know what's going on.
Exactly.
So I think it's, yeah.
Well, the going back to Fabrice Colin, who is Laurentian Faculty Association president, said that, what did he say here? He said that the truth, at least, is what we're talking about now, because we all know what happened through this report, is the first step toward a healing process and a better future for Laurentian University. So they're already kind of saying, okay, it's out now.
Let's move forward.
Kind of thing. That's the gist that I get from that.
Small detail that I thought was, I just remembered this. I'll mention this in the full kind of overview, but there was a part of the report where it says, I don't know how Laurentian was deciding who to hire for these things, because it seems like they had no real rationale for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the reason, like they didn't have a good reason why they were calling these people. I thought that was very telling. Like that was a big. It was just a few sentences in there, in the 13-page report, but I thought that was very telling, and I think that that's a ubiquitous problem, not just in Laurentian, but maybe in government as a whole. If you see Laurentian as an extension of the government, you know, all of us have met somebody that works in one position or another, and we think, how the heck did they get there? You know, they can barely tie their own shoes, and they're in charge of this like massive. That's another key takeaway here. Like, these are not minimum wage workers.
No,
they make more than you and I. They make more than
most of them are on the sunshine list. Business. Obviously, yes,
exactly. Well, yeah, sunshine list, transparency.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, they found just the opposite in their report. Like they did as much as they can to hide a lot of the fees.
We talked about this yesterday too. Like, who is going to be accountable? Is there going to be any accountability? Is there going to be? Do we even need scapegoats anymore? Remember back in the day when something like this could have happened? You needed a scapegoat.
No, we don't.
Even just for the optics of somebody has paid the price, you know, so that way the public would be satisfied. Have we gone beyond that point in our society today where nobody, you know, we don't even expect accountability? We were like, well, you know what, there's not going to be any accountability. And people kind of lose faith even in the idea of accountability.
Do you remember, I think we talked about this on the air. We'll have to move on because we have a lot of other stories, but I mentioned this, I think it was in it couldn't have been on air because this is in 2020, so we must have just been speaking as friends.
Okay.
I became very interested in doing a minor in film right before they announced they would no longer be offering the program at Laurentian.
Ouch.
Yeah, so that very much bothered me. So, not to offend anyone, you're all great, but my favorite teacher I ever had at Laurentian taught me an intro to film class, and I thought that he deserved all of the, you know, he deserved everything, and he was let go, so no longer teaches there.
Yeah.
Great teacher, inspired me to take up a whole new subject in my life. Like that's true inspiration, right?
He impacted your life, and that's what real teachers can do, right? Exactly.
Yeah, and I can honestly say that. So really was looking forward to figuring out a way to change my schedule, get this film minor, because it really meant a lot to me. And they basically said, we're going to cancel the whole program. People that are in film will be able to graduate with a film degree, but it's not even going to be the same thing. It's going to be basically an English degree, in name only a film degree, right? So anyways, let me get to the point here. So he tells me, seems like this is really important to you. You should join the Zoom call where the Senate is going over the cancellation of the program. And this is in 2019 before the revelations about this happened. So they're cutting programs
already,
and nobody knows why. Everyone thinks it's, the program doesn't have a lot of enrollment. You know, turns out they were planning to file for this CCAA anyway. So I attend the Senate meeting, and this lady comes up, and she basically says, this is a unique university. It's the only university with a film program in Northern Ontario, and Northern Ontario is skewed toward Indigenous people. So it's more Indigenous students at Laurentian by proportion than other schools, and it's the only Northern Ontario school with a film. So essentially, you're destroying the Indigenous film program in Ontario, basically, is what she said. And I remember when she said that, I go, that isn't a really good argument. There's no way they can cancel the program now. And sure enough, there was a vote. They voted not to cancel the program. And what happened? The Senate went, yeah, but it's not really the Senate's decision anyway.
So they just handed it off for someone else to cancel it.
I forget what exactly. There was some other group that basically says, well, it's nice that you
found a way to
have
get
this
it done.
whole meeting and everything.
Exactly.
And you thought that you were in charge of that, but
actually we're in charge.
You're really not, and it was all for show. And we're going to cancel the program. So,
ouch.
Again,
you know how many you shared a story about that, and you know how many stories that other people, even possibly listening or watching,
more.
They went to Laurentian and they went through this, and either you were teaching there or a student there or working there, and the way that it was all done, you definitely knew this isn't right. What's being done, it's not done in the proper manner. And so, but afterwards, we're looking back and saying, okay, now we know why. We know why now, the way things kind of went down. We know why.
Yeah. Like, really, if you go to the ministry and you say, we're having financial trouble, we offer, more than 100 programs. Many of them have only a few people in them. Do you really think the ministry is going to say, let's keep building all these useless buildings, but axe all these programs?
Yep.
Like, I think they would have done the opposite, Like, it just doesn't make sense for an altruistic organization that's thinking, like, the good of the people that attend it and teach at it. It doesn't make sense to do that.
No.
The build it and they will come attitude that they employed, and that was in the report, it's doesn't say too many good things about people running things.
No. And again, it's again, they did not do, I guess, the moral thing, the ethical thing, even the legal thing to some degree. It could be an argument made. And in the future, though, if we look back and if they do come out of this almost pruned and, reorganized in a more efficient manner going forward, one might say, well, maybe that was, even though a lot of people were hurt in the process and it wasn't fun and it wasn't even, like I said, arguably legal, it was now, Laurentian is in a better position now than ever. But only the future will tell that, right? I'm just putting that out there that could even be a possibility.
I'm making a prediction right now. Not one person gets fired.
So no accountability is what you're saying.
Not only no accountability, I don't think anyone will lose their job.
That currently has it.
Like, people might resign, but I don't. As the full report comes out, I'm guessing within the next year, I don't think there's going to be any serious ramifications. You can't give people jail time for incompetence. You just can't. Sadly.
Yeah.
Even if they became millionaires doing it, they can just,
And because there's so many layers in the administrative hierarchy of a university,
you can just always pass on.
Yeah, you can't really put it on any one particular person, other than, I would say, president. I would say possibly
the buck doesn't really stop with the president, though.
Okay, because there's the board,
in my opinion. Yeah,
and then there's the committees and the
they filed
the managers.
They filed for CCAA, which is meant for corporations. But they're not acting like a corporation.
No.
It's anyways. I mean, CKLU is affected by this too.
Oh, definitely CKLU for sure.
We're literally broadcasting on a station that was affected
for sure
a lot, and I think pretty much everyone that's connected to CKLU knows about it. So
we're already a shoestring budget, just hanging on by a thread.
Yeah.
And and it was like, whoa, now what? And that was up in the air, and it still kind of is. We're still just kind of, just
hanging by a thread,
hanging on by a prayer, winging a prayer. And speaking of that, Pledge Week is coming up, so keep your eye on that. And if you can support CKLU in any way, shape, or form, we'd love that. You just got to go on the website and make a donation, basically, of whatever you feel you can do in support of local community radio.
Mm-hmm.
Very important. Anyways, I definitely, we spend how many volunteer hours doing this show on CKLU,
Yep.
showing how much we support the idea of community radio and a community voice and things like this that are going on in Laurentian. If you could have had a conversation these years about this and being, in the know, could that have even, stopped it from happening if we would have got wind of something or whatever, and just had a conversation with people that knew? You never know. It can make a difference in a community in a positive way.